episode is sponsored by Geekdom, San Antonio's entrepreneurship hotspot and co-working space. Whether you need one-time recurring office space or event space, Geekdom has it all. Use code SOCIALBUTTERFLY when signing up for a membership to receive $25 off of monthly memberships. Welcome back to Unapologetically Visible, the podcast for high-achieving Latina and women of color founders who are done being the best-kept secret. I'm your host, Christina Olivarez, award-winning leadership and visibility coach, TEDx speaker, and founder and CEO of the Social Butterfly Gal and Hustle and Socialize. I am a nerd for all things data. I feel like so many of you might know this about me, but if you're learning about this for the very first time, I am a data nerd. I truly believe that in order for you to make significant progress in your business, you need to build a system and build a process around collecting data about your clients, about your social media, about your revenue, just all things data. And it's really important to not only just collect the data, but understand how to actually analyze the data to make specific strategies that are going to help you in the long run with your business. And that's what today's episode is all about. I'm taking you behind the scenes of my process on how I collect the data, how I audit my data so that you can understand how to audit your own data, especially around your clients, for better strategic results. I already know that for some of you, the second that you hear the word data, you start to check out a little bit. It's a little nerdy. It's very scientific. Data can sound super dry. I get it. It's not sexy at all. It could sound like spreadsheets, dashboards, metrics, KPIs, all the things that make creatives and intuitive founders want to close the laptop and go make coffee instead or go do something else more creative. I totally get you. But I want to offer a different way to look at your data. Data is not just about numbers. It is truly the evidence that is going to support a hypothesis. It's evidence to support strategies. And data is one of the most underrated business strategies, especially when it comes to Latina founders. When you are in a slow season or when you're starting to feel like your momentum has slowed down a bit and everything kind of feels quiet, that's when your mind is going to start telling you stories. It's going to trick you. It's going to make you feel like nothing that you are doing is right. And you need to throw out the playbook and burn everything all down. One of the ways that I've had to coach myself anytime my brain starts playing tricks on me, especially in this current season where I'm restructuring my whole entire business model, is to remind myself that I have to go back to my data. The data is never going to lie. It may make you feel a little bit of uncomfortable, and it might feel icky when you actually see the data because you cannot outrun it. But when your thoughts and emotions really start getting the best of you, this is where your data is going to bring you back to the actual truth of what's going on. Data is one thing that helps you stop making decisions from emotion and start making decisions from the actual logical evidence. Because your next level is going to require you to become much more honest about what is already happening inside of your business. And this is where client data becomes extremely powerful. The common point of view that I constantly hear whenever I talk to my clients about data is that it's something that you track when you want to measure growth. Absolutely. This is completely true. Data does help you measure growth and measure loss, like a profit and loss statement. That is data that is allowing you to see what is working and what is not working. But the contrarian point of view is that data is not just about measuring. Data is one of the most emotionally grounded tools in your business because it interrupts assumption, panic, and projection. And my point of view, after being a founder for 11 years, navigating so many business pivots and shifts, is that client data is my mirror when it comes to my own leadership. It shows you who your real buyers are, what they value, what they are willing to invest, what they are resisting, what builds trust, what your offers are really solving, and what your business model may be telling you. When you have that kind of evidence, that's when you stop moving like a founder who is begging the market to validate her. You start moving like the leader who is listening. So let me bring this into my own business for a minute. Since July of 2025, I have been restructuring my business model to a more high proximity based coaching and speaking business. I've used July of 2025 through June of 2026 as my beta case study. I started to build a case study around the messaging, positioning, my ideal client profile, also known as ICP, and doing my due diligence to better understand this new business model before I really ramp up any marketing or sales promotions. I have been looking very intensely at who my buyers are versus who my audience is. And I think that's such an important distinction because a lot of you collapse these two groups. You might assume that your social media audience and your buyers are the same people, and they are not always the same. Your social media audience may love your work. They may started following you whenever you were at a specific current season and has stayed with you through them all. Your social media audience may comment or share your posts, listen to your podcasts. They may tell you, "Oh my goodness, you are in my head. This is so good." They may admire you deeply. But I'm here to tell you, especially from experience, that admiration is not the same as somebody actually making a top dollar investment on you and your work. And sometimes your actual buyers may be the ones who have never commented on your post, never liked a post, never shared a post, maybe don't even know that your podcast exists. They may be people who came through other people and immediately were ready to pull the trigger once they knew that you were the person that was going to solve their problem. One of the things that I've had to look at in my own business is who is actually buying. Who has invested? What do they all have in common? What season were my ideal clients in? When did they reach out to me? What problem had become way too expensive for them to carry this alone? What did they need from me specifically? What offer did they choose? Why did they choose that offer? How did they find me? How long have they been in my orbit and in my world? What actually built their trust over time? When you start asking those questions, you begin to see things extremely differently. It is another thing to look at your actual client data and know exactly who you're speaking to, especially when it comes to your content creation. I feel that there's so many of you who want to create content with the expectation of being a content creator and not necessarily utilizing your content to validate all of the things that you are doing, but more so to go viral and to have those big moments. And there's such a distinction between content creator and service-based business owner who is utilizing content to be able to validate the trust and the like trust, all those things. Once you start understanding your actual client data and what that formula and the format looks like when it comes to your sales process, that level of clarity really starts becoming more clear because you are no longer guessing anymore. You have the data to back up all of your findings of where your clients are finding you and what they are doing in order for you to get to them quickly. That's where paying attention to your data is going to become key. When you do not have that clarity, that is when you start making expensive assumptions. Your data has to go deeper than surface metrics. It's not enough to ask, how many viewers did this post get? You need to really ask, did this post attract the ideal client? It's not enough to ask how many people signed up for this webinar. You need to actually ask yourself, were these the right people? And it's not enough to ask, did this offer sell? You need to ask who bought it? Why did they buy it? What was happening in their business when they bought it? And did the offer create the kind of relationship, transformation, and business model that I want more of? That is the level of maturity that changes everything. Sometimes the data will tell you that something worked financially, but it didn't work energetically. I've experienced this time and time again when I was building my conference. My data was telling me that financially it was an expensive decision for me and it was hurting me energetically more than anything, but also it was hurting my bottom line. Sometimes your data is going to tell you that an offer definitely worked and sold, but it attracted clients who were not actually ready for the depth of your work. That's why it's important to actually qualify your clients. And sometimes your data is going to tell you that you need to be pouring into a platform or audience segment that gives you applause, but not the actual conversion. This is why your client data matters. Your client data will reveal the difference between where you are being consumed and where people are actually being invested in you. And that distinction is everything. One of the reasons I think so many high achieving Latina and women of color founders avoid looking at their data is because the data is going to require really big honesty. Your data may confirm something that you have been avoiding for a long time. And that could be a huge wake up call for you because it's going to force you to hold yourself accountable and to also take responsibility for your actions of what's working and what's not working. For example, my client data revealed to me that I discount my offers way too much. It is so sad, especially because I know this and I still do it. Sometimes I feel like my rejection wound goes deep and I get really nervous at pricing my offers for what I know to be true because of the value that I bring, the results that happen. And sometimes I want to help everybody and I know I can't help everybody. And my data was showing me, and it confirmed that my revenue leaks happened because I discounted my work. And that hurt me so much in the long run. But guess what? Because I saw this data and it confirmed to me, I am no longer going to be doing that. You hear me? I am saying it loud and clear. My prices are my prices. I am not discounting my work. If you cannot afford it, I am so sorry. Come back to me when you can. But I have to create a boundary of how I show up and sell. And I have to get in front of my client that can actually afford the work that actually needs me and the value that I bring because my work is so valuable. I want you to think about your own business through that lens. What does your client data reveal about what people are really buying from you? If you do not know where to start, here is what I want you to start doing. I'm going to share my process of how I go about collecting my data. First, I need you to get a really great accounting software. If you don't already have one, I recommend QuickBooks. I've been using QuickBooks since 2018. And inside of QuickBooks, one of the things that I really love is the tag feature. You can start categorizing specific groups in accordance to the offers that you sell. I like to create tags to be able to separate each transaction in accordance to the offer. So for example, I have a specific tag for private coaching, for VIP days, for intensives, or any digital product or training masterclasses that I'm doing. And of course, I have a tag for speaking. So every time I get a payment from a client and it shows up in my QuickBooks, whenever I categorize it as my income, I go into the tag and I tag which of that transaction, what offer did it come from? Every week, I like to book out a sliver of my time, maybe about 30 minutes on the calendar. I like to call this my weekly booking sweep, my bookkeeping. And I go ahead and I match the tag in accordance to that transaction. And then on a regular Google spreadsheet, I create a specific pie chart where I have all of the different offers in one single cell. And then I have the amount of money that has come from each of those offers. And in the pie chart, every time that I get a new client or sell something, I put the amount of income that's in there. And then the pie chart creates the percentage graph of me being able to understand where my revenue is coming from through that offer. So I have an understanding that private coaching might be about 75 of my revenue. And that means that for the whole year, whenever I'm thinking about my marketing, if I know that private coaching is a huge percentage of that revenue, then that's the one that I'm going to be marketing majority of the time. And then once you have a great accounting system, you need to have a great CRM system. I am a huge Dubsado fan. I have been using Dubsado again since 2018. I have an affiliate code. You can reach out to me on Instagram for that affiliate code, and I'll leave it in the show notes below. But I use Dubsado for all of my invoicing, my contracts, but most importantly, for client intake forms, questionnaires, and all of my scheduling. Inside of Dubsado for the client intake forms, I use the questionnaires that allow for me to collect data on my clients around their annual revenue, their total household, what they're needing in terms of coaching, what their bottlenecks are, their challenges, why they are coming to me for coaching, what makes me the coach for them, and just really allows for more information so that I could get a bird's eye view of their world and why they are choosing me as their coach. Every time that I go through my client's intake form, it allows me to see who my actual clients are. I'm not guessing. I have a distinct profile that allows for me to see the patterns of my actual clients. And it helps me because I'm not guessing. I'm not, looking for other people or outside sources to tell me this is who I should target or this is who I shouldn't target. I literally have it through the data. And when I'm coaching, I do have my AI note taker on Zoom. And yes, full transparency, all of my clients give me consent and permission for me to be able to use AI in our coaching. Whenever they sign their contracts, there is an AI section in the contract that again gives permission for me to use the AI note taker on top of gathering any client information or data from the transcripts. And every time I do this, this just allows for me to put it into my little robot and help me to audit my own coaching, but also for me to understand the patterns of the clients that I work with. I think going through this data almost every month or every quarter is a great way to get a baseline of what you actually need to understand about your ideal client so you can just market better and understand what relationships that you need to build. Because if I'm seeing that the data is showing me that a good portion of my revenue and my clients come from 80% of referrals and relationships, that means that for me, I'm going to spend a lot of my time cultivating and building relationships with people who then can become referral partners versus me spending so much time on social media or my Instagram to try to funnel in clients when there's not necessarily a deep funnel over there. And that just kind of gives me, again, a baseline of what it takes to actually run a high proximity coaching business. So when you audit your data, you also want to understand the emotional and behavioral patterns. So when you're looking at your clients, you want to understand what season were they in when they hired you? Were they in a transition or burning out? Were they scaling, pivoting? Had something become too expensive to actually tolerate? And you want to ask yourself, what made this moment the moment? Why now? That's always a question that I always love to ask my clients is, why now and why me? What happened that made them stop lurking, stop thinking about it, and stop telling themselves that they should be able to figure it out alone? And what made them finally decide to say, I need support? That is usually where the real insight lives. For many established founders, that is the missing piece. You are understanding how to understand these patterns so that you could create content, but then really get to the root cause of the issue of why your clients actually want to work with you. So, what I want you to do next is I want you to think of your client data in about 7 categories. So, category number 1, I want you to look at who has actually bought from you, not who follows you. Those are 2 different categories. I want you to look at who has actually invested in your work. And I want you to look at their industry, their revenue, their household income, if they've known you for years or did they just meet you. Look at their role, the level of the decision making, how long it took to actually make the decision, their business model, what stage of their life are they in right now to be able to work with you at this point. And then I want you to ask yourself, what do my best buyers all have in common? The second category is buyer behavior. How did they find you? Was it through social media? Was it on Instagram, Threads, LinkedIn? Was it through a referral? Did they hear their podcast episode? Did they see you from a speaking engagement? And then once you get an understanding, I want you to go deeper. How long were they in your world before they bought from you? Did they buy super quickly because the relationship was already warm, or did they listen quietly for months? I once had a client who met me at a networking event in February. And then around summertime, she was ready to pull the trigger because she had been watching my content for so long on LinkedIn. So don't discount those behaviors. And then the third category is the buying trigger. Why did they decide to pull the trigger? What was happening when they finally reached out to you? Were they tired of being unclear? Were they tired of doing this alone? Were they repositioning? Once you start understanding the buying trigger, that allows for you to stop creating vague content that sounds super nice and super virally, but it does not move the right person into action. And then the fourth category is objections. What almost stopped them from buying? Was it your price? Was it the timing? Did they fear of investing again because they've already been burned before? Is it not having capacity to be able to do this work? Just like what were their fears around actually making the buying decision? Objections are not just sales barriers, they are really big emotional data. So it's really important to understand the emotionality between what your clients are experiencing and how they feel inside of making that investment. The fifth category is transformation themes. So when you've actually gone through your clients and you see where they were right when they started with you and what does that look like as they go through your containers, you want to know what actually changed for your clients. Did they get clearer? Did they see results? Did they make better leadership decisions? All the things that point to specific results, your testimonies and client notes, even your support chats are full of data conversations. There's so much to pick from. So look at those, of course. And then the sixth category is client quality and fit. You got to qualify your clients. Bottom line, you got to understand what makes a really great client, who's qualified, who's the best fit for it. This is really about maturity because not everybody is a rock star client. Not everybody is meant to be working with you. And so you really need to know how to better qualify your clients. And this is where you have to ask yourself honestly, who are the clients that create the strongest results? Are these the ones that don't need handholding? Are these the people that when you say something, they are ready to go to work and they're able to take responsibility and they value your leadership? So you got to understand how to qualify your clients. And then the last category is who drains you? Because again, not every client is meant to be a client. Not everybody that you are trying to serve is meant to, go in and be the rockstar client. So you have to know who drains you. The data may tell you that your buyers are typically ones who take about 3 to 6 months to decide, because if they're investing at a deeper level, they really want to make sure that they are making a great decision and they want to be sure that they are in alignment with that decision. And so the data is going to tell you so many things about your buyers and your messaging, your content, you name it. So here's what I want you to do after listening to this episode. I want you to audit your last 5 to 10 rock star clients and buyers. Create a simple document or a spreadsheet. It doesn't need to be fancy. I did this on Friday with a Google Doc, and I want you to track their names, the industry, the offer that they purchased, the level that they invested in, where they came from, how long were they in your world, what triggered the buying decision, what objections came up for them and any type of discovery calls, what transformation actually happened, and how they were aligned as a client. And then I want you to look for patterns. What keeps repeating? What are your best clients showing you? What are your inquiries showing you? What your testimonials are showing you? Then I want you to ask this leadership question. What business decision does this data require from me now? If you're an established Latina or women of color founder and you are in the middle of a business transition or navigating your next chapter, I want to invite you to apply to work with me in private coaching, because in private coaching, we really get deep into the data and we build specific strategies, and I coach and advise you through it all. You can send me a DM with the word data if you are interested, or apply from the link in the show notes below. And I also want you to message me and let me know if this episode resonated with you or it spoke to you. Sometimes your next level is going to require you to be super honest. And when that happens, it's so important to go look at your data. If you resonated with this episode, here's what I want you to do next. Subscribe and leave a review, because that helps this podcast reach more women like us, women who are never meant to stay hidden, women who are meant to be highly visible leaders. Share this episode with someone you love who needs help when it comes to their data. and DM me on Instagram at the social butterfly gal. Tell me your biggest reframe, your biggest breakthrough from today's conversation. And if you're feeling the call to go deeper, to recalibrate your personal brand, leadership, and your visibility, I would love to support you through one-on-one coaching. You can find the coaching information and offers in the links in the show notes below, or send me a DM with the word coaching, and I will personally walk you through what offers are in alignment with your current season and what it looks like to step into this next era with clarity, confidence, and unapologetic authority. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening and for all the shares and reviews. Remember this, you didn't come this far to play safe. You came here to be unapologetically visible. I'll see you next week.